What up, you guys? My name is Tim Robertson. The man sitting across from me is Jason Hoban. And this is the very first episode of what from now and forevermore will be known as the Fight Fanatics Podcast. What up, Jason?
What's up, Tim?
Woo! What a way to bring in the podcast with UFC 281 last night.
Yeah, you can't start off a show any better than with a card like that. It has to be one of the best cards of the year and maybe in the top 10 of all time.
Oh,
spectacular.
Oh my goodness. First of all, everything you could want in a card was on it.
Yeah.
Everything you could want. Knockouts, drama, upsets. We had it all.
Yeah. And it started right off the rip, too, with Carlos Ulberg. Like, it just a great fight to start the night with. A lot of people thought, why is this starting it? You know, this whole card, why is this the beginning fight? Why is it so low on the card? But they set a tone, and everybody else had to kind of live up to what they, were capable of doing in that first fight.
Yep. If you want to know why the show is called Fight Fanatic Podcast, it's very simple. I am a fanatic of fighting. Hoban is a fanatic of fighting. We love fighting. We've been watching fighting basically all of our lives.
Yeah.
And we can't get enough of it. We are not black belts in jiu-jitsu. We are not former fighters. We are not journalists. We are strictly obsessed with the sport of combat.
Yeah, just a couple of regular guys who obsess over this. I mean, how many times a week would you say on average we talk on the phone or in person for hours about fighting, about upcoming fights, about previous fights, about individual fighters? Like, it's a constant for the both of us to be in these conversations. And like I've said a couple million times in the past to other people when explaining what we plan on doing with this podcast here is when we, like, it's so strange how I'll call you or you'll call me, and it's like the conversation that we had 2 days before just continues.
Yep.
It's yo, what up? Just working. Oh, cool. Just got off work. And then it's just like from that like little greeting, it just turns into a run-on conversation that we've had for the past 10 years that we've been talking about this stuff together. And I feel like that's what this podcast is going to be, is just two dudes who love this stuff and just want to constantly obsess over it and talk. And fanatic, I think, is like the perfect word for what we are.
100%. The reason why the pod even became a idea in the first place is because we talked so much about it, and it literally was like, we're doing this for in front of nobody. We need an audience for this, because this is good stuff here. Yeah. This is high level stuff. We talk as much studying and as much absorption we've had of the sport of MMA in particular, but me, I've watched a lot of boxing as well. You've watched K1 and Dream and all that stuff throughout the years. Yep. It's as I don't want to say we're experts, but but we know a thing or two. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. You'll find out for yourselves throughout this pod. So back to UFC 281. I don't want to delay the talk about this card anymore. Just like you said, Carlos Ulberg starts the whole thing off.
Yes, sir.
What was your thought about that being the opener for the whole card?
I mean, I kind of understand it because neither one of these guys is a huge name, but both of them bring a certain flair to the fight. So it kind of makes sense. I heard Dana White's post-fight, and somebody asked him about, was this card purposefully stacked more, as an MSG card? And he said, no, we try to stack every card from top to bottom every week. Like, that's the goal. He doesn't want to sell wolf tickets. He even mentioned boxing and how he got so upset sometimes where he would buy a boxing pay-per-view, and at the end he would be upset because it didn't live up to what he had anticipated, and he's trying to avoid that. But I'm going a long way around saying this in that I think it was a great fight to start the card with. You got a couple of guys who are known to jags like us who are fanatics, but they can open a card to get people hyped for the rest of the card. To me, it was like a perfect fight to open with.
Yeah, I agree. It started off with drama. It ended with drama.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss in saying that we saw an upset of all upsets. We 100% thought that Israel Adesanya was going to get the job done. Before the fight started, me and you were in accord that he's going to get the job done, especially based off what we've seen from the 2 previous kickboxing fights. Man.
I don't think we are alone in thinking that Izzy was going to really have success here. I think that most of MMA media and people who watch fights were under the assumption that Izzy was going to win. Sure, there's some outliers who are backers of Pereira or something, but for the most part, everybody thought that. It was just, we were going to get a nightcap of Izzy smoking this guy, and boy, did we were a little bit off.
For those who lived under a rock, Israel Adesanya, pound for pound, middleweight king, was dethroned last night via KO from his long tenured rival, Alex Pereira.
What do you think? It was tragic. I mean, Izzy obviously was winning the fight. I think everybody in existence who has any experience watching these fights had it 3-1 going into the 5th round. Like I think that was pretty obvious to everybody.
Yes.
Izzy probably or possibly could have taken over and won in the 3rd or 4th round. I feel like Pereira really slowed down in those 2 rounds, and Izzy, with a little bit of pressure, might have gotten him out of there. But I looked a little bit on stuff this morning about people's reaction to the stoppage. How did you feel about the stoppage? Like, do you think it was warranted or a little early, maybe? Or
I'm from the school of, I know a lot of people, especially old school guys and old school fighters, let me go out on my shield.
Yeah.
I'm not face down, cheeks up. I'm still there.
Yeah.
I do not believe in that at all. I believe that I would much rather have a ref step in a beat too early than a beat too late. I think that if a man is not defending himself, he's not even looking at the person he's fighting anymore.
Yeah.
Fight's over.
Yep.
And Izzy, he literally couldn't move. If you literally watch the footage of the final sequence, he tries to step to his right, and he falls because he has no equilibrium.
Yeah, his balance was way off, and I think Pereira helped him down a little bit, but either way, it wasn't anything significant enough to knock him down a second time. It was,
and he wasn't even looking up. He had his head down.
Yep.
He's just trying. It's you cannot call it intelligently defending yourself, which is the definition of why you stop a fight.
That's the criteria of a stoppage is, if a fighter is not intelligently defending themselves. That's like in the rule. And that's exactly what Izzy was doing. And like, as a fan of his, I was upset because I didn't want him to lose. So that's why I have any reservation about it. But the stoppage itself, you can't argue with it. He had his butt against the cage and his feet weren't moving at all. And he was dipping with his, at his waist and trying to weave around punches, but you're right. He wasn't looking. He was looking at the ground and just kind of bobbing back and forth. But yeah, I can't be mad at the stoppage.
Yep. Pereira wins via 5th round TKO KO. What is it with these TKO KOs? They can't get it. They can't get it right. Sometimes they call it a knockout when it's clearly not a knockout. Yeah. Sometimes they call it a TKO when it is a knockout. Whatever. That was a TKO.
Yeah. So he wasn't asleep. He was, completely awake and aware, and talked to the referee right after. It's not like he was unconscious.
So to really break the fight down, it looked. If you watch the 2 kickboxing matches, I mean, aside from the grappling and obviously in the groundwork that Izzy put on in the middle rounds, the stand-up was essentially the same.
Yep.
Israel Adesanya was much more calculated this time than in the kickboxing matches. He was way more aggressive. I think naturally in boxing and kickboxing, you're more apt to be aggressive because you don't fear the power as much because of the 10 to 12 ounce gloves. 8 ounce, 10 ounce, 12 ounce, depending on what promotion you're in. But
also, you don't have to fear the takedown.
Exactly.
You can move forward with that kind of pressure and not have to be fearful of, sure, there's clinching and stuff, but the ref steps in and breaks you up. And, obviously you can throw knees and stuff in the clinch as well. But if it's a stalled clinch,
much more room for error in kickboxing than there is in mixed martial arts. So Izzy was not nearly as aggressive as he was in those 2 kickboxing bouts. But for Israel Adesanya, the mixed martial artist, he still was pretty aggressive.
Yep.
Especially when he started really having success in the middle rounds.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like in the 5th round, he just lost. Like there was a growing problem during the fight that me and you noticed throughout, that he would allow Pereira to back him up against the fence.
Yep.
And of course, in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, 3rd round, you got the speed, you got the agility, you got the stamina to avoid shots. Because he was avoiding death blows.
Yeah, Matrix
constantly.
Style.
Yeah. And it's like, ooh, you slow down a little bit, you're going to have a problem on your hands.
Yeah.
And that seemed to me what happened in the 5th round. He just slowed down a little bit. He just couldn't avoid the shots like he did the prior rounds.
I don't like that Izzy got TKO'd. It sucks. But for me, the takeaway for the fight, the most disappointing thing is how he was able or unable to he couldn't get his back off the cage. And that's a credit to Pereira, really, because Izzy was doing everything he could to, side straddle and get away, to the side, and escape out. But Pereira was just so relentless in his pursuit. He did a great job of cutting off the octagon. It wasn't like a chase or a follow. He really used his footwork to cut off and to both sides effectively. And I think that, because certainly they're going to have a rematch. Maybe not an immediate. Dana talked about it like it was a foregone conclusion that they were, but who knows the way these things play out. But that's one of the things that he talked about was he's got to get away from that cage.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to do because I understand from Izzy's point of view, like he did number one thing you're taught, if you want to keep your back off the cage, is you have to get the respect of the guy who's coming at you.
Yeah.
So if a person presses the fight, you hit him with a shot, that backs him off. You hit him with a nasty body shot or a nice overhand right that he doesn't see coming, that backs him off. You get respect. He doesn't just try to march you down. There was nothing that Israel could do. I mean, he hurt him.
Oh, man,
he
at the end of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, and he just kept coming.
Yeah,
like a Frankenstein. Like he just wouldn't. There was nothing that Izzy could do to keep him from pressing forward, and that literally was what won him the fight.
Yeah.
The fact that he never stopped coming forward. Yeah. It's so taxing on the fighter who's fighting off the back foot to fight that way for 5 rounds.
Yeah, you're constantly in a mode of retreat and defense, whereas Izzy, let's be realistic here, he thrives in that kind of situation anyway. But you could tell that in this instance particularly, it took a toll on him. He did kind of slow down more in that 5th round and was incapable of getting away. And I mean, we got to see the potential of Alex Pereira was that in the 3rd or 4th round, he looked like he was exhausted. He had nothing left. And then if you watch like any post-fight stuff, you can see it where Glover and the other guys are screaming at him in between the 4th and 5th round and like really motivating him and using foul language. And he really came out in that 5th round with like a fire. And it worked out for him. So congrats to the new champ,
I think also it looked like during that 5th round, he realized like, I got a lot left in the tank here.
Yeah, he realized he had some juice left and really let it go, which that's a wonderful thing to see. Like a fighter like have that self-realization and come out with, that grit, that ready to go, that heart,
He really came in shape because in the 3rd and 4th round, he looked pretty beat. Like really not really gas. The commentators really overblown that.
Yeah.
Like they acted like he looked like Mark Coleman back in the day. Like it's just completely blown out. And
thought this was Kimbo Slice versus Dada 5000. Both these guys are going to the hospital, man. He might have a heart condition after this.
It was just I'm like, yeah, he's a little tired, but he's not. I mean, I've seen way, way, way worse in modern MMA. We don't even have to go back in the day, you know.
Yeah, they definitely throw the word exhausted around a little loosely.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell, a guy's getting tired. He's slowing down a little bit, but, the dude takes one deep breath and whoever's on the call, he's exhausted. How is he going to come off the stool?
Yeah. This is 8th fight, right? His 7th or 8th fight.
I think he was 6-1 coming into this one.
So 7th fight, and to be in that, I can't express how impressive it is for it to be. I get it. He's had a gajillion kickboxing fights.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah,
For him to step into Madison Square Garden, the mecca of combat sports, in front of 20,000, and his 7th fight in mixed martial arts, first 5-round fight in mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
To have the kind of stamina he had in that 5th round, he put in the work in the gym.
You know it. It's undoubted. And we saw a little bit with Wellington Turman as well, even though he lost the fight. Mm-hmm. But you can tell that Glover, or that Teixeira MMA and fitness, like these 3 guys who are coming up to title shots. You know, we had a win last night. Glover's got a shot coming up in December, and then Wellington Turman. You could tell that those guys had a different fire under them for this camp, and leading into Glover's fight, like they were at a different level, which makes me even more excited for the rematch between Glover and Yuri Prochazka. But yeah, I was really impressed with Pereira last night.
Yep. I couldn't help but think when I saw Izzy first shoot for the takedown, I couldn't help but think in the back of my mind, Nate Diaz in the back of my head. Oh, so you're a wrestler now.
Did you see that Nate was there last night?
Yeah.
And then
just doing his usual Nate stuff.
Yeah. I didn't, because did you watch any of the post-fight stuff, like the interviews or anything?
No.
So I watched some of it. Like I watched Izzy, I watched Poirier, and I watched Dana's this morning. Dana said, or somebody, one of the media persons that was asking him questions, informed him that Nate Diaz had gotten into a scuffle in the audience. So he said, was it a he or she? I'm not certain, but I'm not trying to miscredit anyone. But whoever the reporter was said that there was video of it. So I'm looking forward to finding that on the internet later.
Now, I didn't see any video of him in the building scuffling, but I saw one outside of the arena between him and the infamous
Dylan,
everyone's favorite fighter who doesn't fight. Dylan Dennis.
Yeah.
And apparently, from what I'm told, he smacked Dylan Dennis. Dylan Dennis tried to retaliate. He had some little yuppie with him that was barking at Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz was just doing his weird little Nate Diaz poses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And everybody's just filming around. Yeah, Nate, what's up, boy? Yeah, Nate.
So you saw the video of him slap Dylan Dennis?
It was literally right after. The video I saw, it was... You could tell it had happened because you hear the reaction. You hear, oh!
Yeah.
But you don't see it in the video.
Well, that's whack.
The one I saw, at least. Maybe there's an alternate angle, but that's the one I saw. It was right after.
I don't know about you, but any opportunity I get to see Dylan Dennis get smacked, I'm interested. So I'm going to scour the internet and see what I can find.
I'm so tired of that guy.
Yeah.
He's a waste of energy. I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, let's move on.
He stinks. But
did you see? So you didn't see any post-fight stuff at all?
I didn't see it.
Like,
no.
Did you see Whitaker's reaction or Marvin Vettori or Paulo Costa?
No. What happened?
Do you want me to ruin it for you?
Yes.
It was beautiful, first of all, and it would be probably the reaction that you would anticipate from all 3 of those guys, knowing their personalities. Paulo Costa and some other guy, I'm not sure who it is, if it's a coach or just a buddy of his or something, but they're dancing. Dropping it like it's hot, as the kids say. A bit of twerking happening. They were definitely celebrating the win. Marvin Vettori he's a strange guy, but he was really hyped up to fight Izzy again. He thought that this was an opportunity for him to fight Izzy. And then, of course, old Bobby Knuckles, he stoic in his ways, but extremely, you could feel his body language. But like we talked last night, Bobby Knuckles is seeing this as an extreme positive for him, because this is another opportunity in him as the number 1 contender, clearly, to get another title shot, which would have been much more hard for him to have happen if Izzy had won.
Yeah, but if they watch that post with Dana White, I'm sure that dampened the spirits a little bit. If what you're saying is true, they said he wants an immediate rematch.
Yeah, he didn't say specifically that, but you know how he is. He kind of answers a question but avoids it at the same time. Especially he always, one of his favorite lines in post fights is, "I don't make fights the night of the fight." Yeah. So it's tough for him to say.
Tuesday.
But yeah. Yeah, we'll have. Yeah, it's what he always says. We'll get together on Tuesday and talk about it. But he made it clear that it's a very strong possibility that we're going to see an immediate rematch.
Yeah, it's so bogus because he 100% makes fights, but you literally can look at other post media scrums and you can see that he's yeah, I like that fight. Yep. Yeah, I think we should do that fight. And then other times, I don't make fights. He just he don't take any inventory of anything he says. He don't care. He don't have to.
No,
he's Dana White.
Yep.
Monopoly, one man show over there.
Yeah, well, it's leaning more and more towards the other way with Hunter Campbell and the matchmakers. I think have a lot more say than they used to.
100%.
So,
but only because he allows it.
Yeah, he has to double check with somebody else to see if they have any better ideas. It's probably more that than anything. Like he doesn't ask, he have to ask for permission. He more has to see if somebody else has a better idea.
He seems to delegate a whole lot more because there are times like, so we heard that the fight is official between and he literally looked to his right and like, is that a fight?
Did we announce that yet?
Did we announce? Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
Yep. Wait till you watch the post fight. There's some guy with a very strong New York accent really giving him the beans. Yeah, it is pretty good.
Okay.
He really pressures him about.
He keeps grilling him.
Well, about heavyweight stuff and about Stipe and about Wins Francis coming back, and he was really persistent. Off air, I would use much more colorful language to describe what he said, but yeah, he definitely
really giving him the business.
He really got under his skin, if you know what I mean. I think that guy may have gotten drug out in the back alley and stomped a little bit.
Yeah, his credentials might have been.
Yeah. And Dana said, "Who is this guy?"
He literally said, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, apparently awesome. He's a podcaster with Dennis Bermudez or something.
Oh wow, yeah. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. Jeez. So to put a button on this, Izzy versus Pereira. Mm-hmm. Well, first I guess I'll say this: what did you think of Izzy's grappling? It's the first time we've seen it in offensively. In a UFC cage setting.
I mean, yeah, there's two different ways you can look at it. Mm-hmm. One, I'm extremely impressed by it because I didn't really know that he had grappling other than pretty decent takedown defense and some pretty good clinch work. But I didn't know that he was capable of taking someone down, holding someone down, securing a back take. He's not going to go out there and beat Gordon Ryan in a grappling match, but it was effective. He rode the back well. That is one thing that they talked about in post-fight was how the crowd of New York is very educated because you remember he was struggling to get that one hook in. I believe it was on the left side. He kept trying to get the left leg in. And Pereira was doing a great job of like dipping the elbow down and like shucking the leg away.
Using the cage.
Defending really well against it. But eventually Izzy got that hook sunk in. And it didn't even lead to a submission attempt or anything, but it was just like another step in the control of back take. But the crowd like exploded. Like they loved it, which I really enjoy the fact that we're getting more educated people as fans to see grappling as something more special. Anyway, I'm off on a little rant, but yeah, I mean he had effective grappling. He did a good job. It's not what I anticipated from the fight. I thought that maybe there would be a takedown, like if they stalemated in the striking or something. But yeah, I'm satisfied with it. There's room for improvement, but definitely looked pretty good on the ground.
Now I'm going to pose another question to you.
Okay.
I'm going to put you in the mind of Israel Adesanya.
Okay, let me get there. I got to do some anime stuff. Some little gang signs.
What is going through your mind right now? What do you think would be going through his mind right now?
It's tough to say because, I mean, he's lost 3 to Alex Pereira. I mean, arguably he won the first kickboxing match. He lost the decision on the cards, but I think by most people's accounts he probably should have earned the decision there. The second fight he was doing really well, nearly finished him until the referee stepped in and gave Pereira a standing 8 count. So he had success in that fight and then got caught late. In this fight, much the same. It's got to be a tough morning for him knowing that by all measure, he's probably more talented and a better fighter. But the problem is you've got that great equalizer of that one-hitter quitter power, and Pereira's had his number, twice on that now, 3 times if you count the decision as well. But it's going to be a tough morning. I think Izzy's a strong mental guy, so I imagine he's going to get right back into camp, and Eugene Berriman's going to really bust his chops this camp and have him even better prepared for the next one.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be tough because I think he felt so sure.
Yeah.
He's never been so sure about something in his life, which is a rare thing to, after being beat twice by somebody, to have that type of confidence because it's a different setting.
Yeah.
It's a different sport. He kept saying in interviews the whole week, I know something he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know something he doesn't know. I would like to, if he ever wanted to talk again, I would like to know what that was that he was trying to say, but maybe he would have said it in victory, but I'm sure in defeat he won't say anything.
That's 2 questions. One, if the fourth fight is an immediate rematch, who do you think opens as the favorite?
At this point, it'd be foolish to not make Pereira the favorite.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Who would you pick in it?
I would still pick Izzy.
Okay, so you would see that as an opportunity to make a couple of bucks on a good sharp bet.
MMA is crazy. Combat sports is so crazy. Anybody who knows anything about fighting can look at all 3 of those fights and see who the better fighter is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, not at all.
It doesn't matter. And it's the only sport like that, and that's why mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, combat sports is the greatest sport. Combat sports is the greatest sports in the world because it's the only sports where no matter what, you can win.
Yeah.
In football, you're down 21-0 with 2 seconds to go. It's over.
Yeah.
Basketball, you're down 15 points with 5 seconds to go. It's over. Mixed martial arts, you're down 4 rounds, 59 seconds, and with that 1 second left, you get sparked out. Doesn't matter what you did in that 4 minutes, 4 rounds, 4 minutes and 59 seconds, you lose.
Yeah. There's a clear reason why I can kind of take and leave other sports. When my Miami Hurricanes are doing well, I'm obsessed and I love it. When they're not playing well, they make me sad and depressed. It doesn't really bother me to not watch every single minute of every single game. Like I can make a distinction. The same thing with pro football or NBA or whatever it is. But MMA is so it just captures my interest so much, and like what you're talking about is the exact reason why. Because you could have a stinker boring of a fight where 2 individuals are just holding each other for the entire fight, and then all of the sudden something happens to knock somebody out, or a submission sinks in just right. There's a constant threat of chaos, and that's what makes it so wonderful.
100%. My last question before we'll move on from this fight, but
we could spend this entire podcast talking about this Izzy fight.
It's so
easily
insane.
Yeah.
But I'll pose one more question, and that is, what can Izzy, if a rematch is imminent, what in the world can Izzy do differently?
I mean,
do you think that the clinch work is what really was it an added addition to his fatigue?
To Izzy's fatigue?
Yeah, by the 5th round.
Like him grappling?
Yeah,
like
all the
wrestling?
all the wrestling and the grappling and the control time. And
I mean, I think that was a contributing factor. I mean, how could it not be? You know how much grappling and stuff like that can really wear a guy down, 100%. Regardless of how
especially when it's not something you do.
Yeah, like let's be realistic. Izzy 100% is training grappling every day, just like every other MMA fighter, but that's not his forte. That's an addition to what he's capable of doing. As far as what he can do in the next fight, like I'm not a coach. I'm just a fan, a guy who watches this, and it's easy for me to sit back on a Sunday morning and say, "This is what you need to do to win next time." It's meanwhile I'm going to eat pizza for dinner and like sit around and be chubby all day or something. But I mean, just from my experience, what I would say he needs to do is what we talked about earlier, just get better at getting away from the cage, not letting himself get cut off, because Izzy is such a talented striker as an aggressor, and even more so, in my opinion, as a defensive striker. He needs to be able to use his foot movement more without getting cut off constantly, not getting pinned against the cage. That was his downfall in this fight, I think. Granted, going into the 5th round, he had fatigued and slowed some, but more than anything, he allowed himself to get stuck in a corner, which is tough to do in an octagon. Yeah, there's little corners, but it's not like a 90-degree corner where you really get stuck and don't have anywhere to go. But how many times during that fight did he get stuck where he couldn't go left or right without getting either cut off or hit with a shot? So I think that most likely is going to be the primary focus for an upcoming camp for a rematch.
Right, because it's crazy, because the whole a big narrative that I was hearing and coming into this fight is that the big reason why it was going to be so different is the cage compared to the ring. In the ring, it's much harder the ring is so much smaller.
Yep.
It's so much easier to cut someone off. It's a lot harder to cut someone off in the cage, especially the pay-per-view cage as opposed to the Apex cage.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe if he could learn the art of the pivot, which is they do a lot in boxing, where they throw a shot, slip, and pivot out the way, I think that would really be a beautiful addition to Izzy's game, because there were times where he had him trapped and he would throw a shot and then would just like slide to the left or slide to the right, as opposed to pivoting and having Pereira against the cage. Right, one moment you're on the cage, you throw a shot, pivot out the way, and now you got him pinned.
Yeah.
Vasily Lomachenko, the lightweight boxing contender, former champion, he is an absolute expert at it. It's literally like watching Mozart or poetry or art. It's unbelievable how good he is at pivoting out of the way, to the point where he's made fighters quit because they can't touch him. So I think I don't know if Izzy can go to a boxing gym or anything like that. Forget about the learning boxing as far as like fundamentals and all that other jazz. I'm just talking about the art of the pivot out the way.
Yeah.
After throwing a counter shot, I think if he can incorporate that in the game, I think that'll really help him against Pereira. I don't really see any alternative as to avoid eventually being put up against the fence. Other than that,
so just footwork improvement and capability of getting away, and then potentially like ended up behind him with a pivot. You think that's the move?
I agree. Yep. I think that's what it is.
I mean, just so Izzy knows, if he needs any advice from us or corner work or anything, like, we got you, dude. Like, just let us know.
I'm on your side, Izzy. Like, I want to see you win so badly.
Yep.
Again, this is not a journalism podcast.
No.
This is a Fight Fanatic podcast. We have favorites.
Uh-huh.
We have people that we love. We have people that we want to see win.
Yep.
We don't want to see anybody get hurt. We don't want to see anybody. We root for the sport in general.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Michelle.
Whoa,
to Alex Pereira.
You did that last night too.
I'm so used to saying Michelle Pereira, like, but congratulations to Alex Pereira. I have no quarrel with you. Like, it's awesome what you've done. You won fair and square, and you keep doing it, and it's impressive. And you're an impressive human being. And every time I look at you, you scare me through the screen.
Easy, man.
You scare me. He's a scary dude, man. He's a scary dude. But I wanted Izzy to win that fight so badly, and it bums me out. But
yeah, after a great night of fights like that last night, I woke up this morning and there was like, I took the dog out first thing in the morning, and I found myself with like just a touch, a little bit like of sadness.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know what the sadness was for?
Who?
It's snowing outside.
Oh.
Yeah. The fights themselves while slightly disappointed because Izzy lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just the snow, man. It really got to me. I just not into it.
I'm not ready for it.
No,
I'm not ready for it at all.
And then driving up here on top of this gigantic mountain that you and your wife Stacy have decided to live on, it got much worse as I came this way.
Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was very surprised. It was on the way home after the fights. It was a little bit gritty out, but like I didn't think it would stack up. But
gritty as in like they had
like
cinders and stuff on the road? Or?
No, just like little gritty snow. You
gotcha.
know what I mean? Like
crunchy crunch.
No, yeah, you didn't think it would stack up or anything. It would just turn into water when it hit the ground. But I woke up, I was like, whoa, okay, got a little white outside.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
Lord knows I can't stand the cold weather and the snow.
Mm-hmm.
But well, you get what you ask for. You live in West Virginia, so
for now,
yeah. But congratulations to Alex Pereira.
Yeah, definitely.
Israel Adesanya, I want to see you back in there. I want the immediate rematch.
Yeah.
I know you have no problem with the immediate rematch.
How can you? Izzy's been a title holder for quite some time. I think this was his 7th title defense. I think.
Yeah.
Regardless, he's been a champ for quite a few years. He's had great successes as a fighter and as a champion. Like it's hard to not give him an immediate rematch, especially the way he was performing in the fight until the end. So,
agreed.
Yeah, let's keep talking about it. 3 or 4 minutes ago we talked. Well, we're gonna.
My last question. This is it. Yeah, this is the last one. This is it. All right. Let's move on to the co-main event. Zhang Weili versus Carla Esparza.
Yeah.
For the strawweight championship of the world. Carla Esparza coming in the champion, 2-time champion. Weili looking to get her return back to glory to also be a 2-time champ.
Mm-hmm.
Weili gets the job done. What do you call that? Like it's technically a rear naked choke, but it's from like a side angle.
Yeah, it was strange, and like this fight, I think probably happened the way that most people, both of us included, kind of expected it to. Sure, Carla Esparza had a couple of good moments in it, but for the most part, it happened the way that we thought it would. That finish was very strange because she was on the back with a crucifix, which is strange. They called it an inverted crucifix, which completely would make sense that it was called that.
Yes.
But yeah, she trapped the arm with her legs and then secured a rear naked choke from there, which is because typically a rear naked choke you have the hooks in and your back control. This was from the side, which it was awesome. I love to see. It was
so awesome.
I love
it
to
takes
see
a lot of
different
strength
stuff.
to do that from that angle. Yeah. Thing is, Carla did the right thing initially. She had the wrist.
Yeah, she had 2-on-1. Was really fighting that one wrist.
And then in like a little bit of like they adjusted a little bit, and then it has slipped. And as Weili was watching that like a hawk, as soon as it let go, she just sunk that baby in. Even the commentators were a little bit confused. They were like, "No, she's okay here. She's okay." Oh! Like it's very rare. I've never seen it from that angle before.
No, never.
Yeah.
Weili really impressed me in this fight, especially in that finishing sequence, because to secure the crucifix from the back like that was impressive on its own because you don't see that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, you're right. Like Carla was fighting. She had a 2-on-1, I believe it was on Weili's left arm, and she had already sunken the right arm under the chin. It was there. Like if she was just a slight bit stronger, she might have been able to finish with a one-armed RNC, or
if she had a little bit of a longer arm, she could use her own shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
But as soon as it was instantaneous. As soon as that left hand broke free, it was in the position, and Carla was already tapping. Like it was the right arm was so secure under the chin that it was at that almost choke point, almost cut off, almost tapped. That as soon as the left came free, it was over.
Yeah.
There was nothing she could do.
If there's one thing I would say about Weili, she's a complete fighter.
Definitely.
But if there's one thing that I would say that she needs to work on a little bit more, and it's due to the Muay Thai nature of her striking, is she has a certain lack of head movement.
Yeah.
That will always be a problem against someone like Rose. Like styles make fights, and a person like Rose who has fluidity in her striking, darts in and out, throws things from weird angles. It's always going to be a problem for someone like Weili if she doesn't adopt some head movement.
I think it's like a point of...
She was getting hit with a very slow...
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. She was throwing a very slow jab, Carla, and it was still touching her.
Yeah. I think we even mentioned it last night, and I can't remember if it was this fight or another fight where somebody had a strong level of Thai boxing, and maybe it was Brad Riddell or something, but that's like a typical thing, like how effective a Thai boxer can be in MMA and Thai boxing is incredible. Like what they can do with the 8 weapons, the hands, elbows, and knees and feet, like it's incredible. But it is a problem that somebody that is a strict Thai boxer continually has is a lack of head movement. And it's almost like a point of pride for them. Like they seem to want to be hit. Like it's part of the game to them is like to hit and be hit back and forth. Like I think Thai boxing has that. But then occasionally you get somebody like Anderson Silva who has incredible defense and movement in addition to great Thai boxing. And you have somebody who's a real problem for everyone they face.
Yep. Yeah, it seems to me like more of the traditional Thai fighters are the ones that they're chin over their feet. They lean in with those low leg kicks.
Yeah.
And not really worried about what comes back too much. Because what I'm going to land is going to hurt you more than what hurts me. And, But in Weili's case, it didn't really, I mean, the level was so different. Like, there's levels to this, and Carla just was not on her level in any way. And so it was really nothing that she could do at the end of the day. I don't know what Carla could have even done differently in this fight.
I can't really come up with anything. Like you said right off the rip when you started to give compliment to Weili, it was, she is a complete fighter. And that's the truth. Is sure, there are some things that could improve there, but if you're not a complete fighter in your own right, you're going to struggle against somebody like Weili Zhang. And Carla Esparza is just not, I don't think she's just not there. You know what I mean? She's got great strength in wrestling and ground and pound, but she's a little weaker on the feet, and she's just not at the same level, I don't think.
Agreed. Now, Cormier said something that perked my ears. He said that Zhang Weili is the most complete women's fighter of all time.
Yeah, because you'd mentioned that to me last night, and I started to rack my brain about, because I don't agree with that. Like, that's just a silly statement to make, which is not terribly surprising coming from DC. He says things, which is part of why he's so entertaining, is because he says off the wall stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can't. I think I got distracted by something exciting happening in the fight after that, so I kind of forgot to go back to that thought. So I can't right off the top of my head come up with who I think the most complete female fighter is, but I definitely don't think it's Weili Zhang. I think there's got to be somebody in there better than that.
I would say the most complete fighter, in my opinion, is Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah,
I got to go with that. I mean, now are there those who are stronger than she is? That's a whole different conversation. Just because you can out-brute someone doesn't mean that you're more complete. You know, I mean, just ask Brock Lesnar. Like, Brock Lesnar compared to Randy Couture is nothing. I mean, Randy Couture is much more complete fighter than Brock Lesnar. It didn't matter. He just out-brutalized him, out-weighted him. But there is no weaknesses in Shevchenko's game whatsoever.
Yeah, I can't argue with that in the slightest, because you're right. Shevchenko is sure, she may not be a specialist in every aspect of MMA, but she is well-rounded enough to be capable and actually very good and confident in every game, every spot. Like she is good. She's got great striking, great grappling, great submissions, like great cardio. Valentina, maybe if I really went back through history and really spent hours, dissecting every female fighter in the world or something, I could come up with someone better. But she definitely is above Weili.
Because mixed martial arts is full of people who are, especially in the women, that are the champs are dominant at one particular thing, and they can implement that over their contemporaries because they're not as good at it as they are. For instance, Ronda Rousey, arm bars, the grappling. There was nobody on that level during her time.
Yeah.
Amanda Nunes, her power, her boxing. For the longest time, there was nobody on that level outside of Valentina Shevchenko. Chris Cyborg. There's nobody that could match her power. It's you always one particular part of the game that they were able to overshadow all their opponents with. With Valentina Shevchenko, there's nothing you can point to say like she does that and she mauls people with that. It's everything. It's whatever she needs for that particular fight. Jessica Andrade, ragdoller, do what you want with her in that particular fight. Fight against if she goes against a wrestler, she can stand up and beat you that way. If Jessica I head kick to the face. There's whatever she needs.
The crazy thing with her too is that back in the day, GSP used to like to use somebody's strength and beat them with it. And Valentina Shevchenko has done that in the past as well. She'll take somebody who's known as a great grappler or a submission artist, and she wants to challenge herself. So she then takes the lead on that and looks for submissions and looks for strikes. And she is an incredible fighter.
Incredible. But not to take the shine off Weili, because Weili was a monster last night. My goodness, it's so impressive to see how much she's improving fight to fight, especially in her ground game and transitioning and grappling, and how natural she looks at it right now, even though it's not like it's something that she's literally learning on the fly, and she seems so natural at it already.
It's tough for me to come up with anything more to say about it because it was such a complete domination, and just how good she looked at every aspect of the game. Like she did what we thought she was going to do, and she looked incredible doing it. And who's going to be the next challenge for her? I'm excited to see. And big ups to Weili Zhang. Like, no joke.
Yeah, it won't be Rose. You can't give Rose a shot. She's got to get a win at first, at least. With I would have said she would have needed 2 wins, but since Weili is the champ, I would say only 1, since she's beaten Weili twice.
Yeah, she's got 2 wins over her. Like, why not give her another shot at it?
Yeah, but who knows where Rose's head is at this point in time. Yeah. But
just ask Pat Barry. He seems to have her pretty well brainwashed.
Yeah,
so.
It's pretty bad. but congratulations to Zhang Weili.
Absolutely.
New champ. We'll move on to probably, I mean, it's crazy to say because there were so many fight of the nights on this card.
Yep.
But this has got to be the fight of the night.
It is. They ended up getting the fight of the night.
Okay.
Yep.
Rightfully so. Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Iron Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
One word, chaos.
Absolutely.
Chaos.
I mean, that's what you expect with Chandler in any fight, and Poirier is the kind of guy that thrives in those conditions as well, and why he's been my favorite fighter for quite some time, or at least in my top 3, and currently my favorite fighter. Yeah, I couldn't ask for a better fight. Poirier got hurt. I believe it was a head clash, but we never did get to see the replay.
They never showed it. Isn't that strange?
But just strange. Yeah. But, yeah, great fight, great back and forth. Yeah. Poirier, what a monster that guy is.
I'll tell you what. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. If UFC was 1.5 rounds, Michael Chandler would be 100-0.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he'd be undefeated.
What an athlete he is. What strength, and like, he is the definition of go out on your shield.
Yeah.
Like that guy does not consider his well-being at all. I used to think that Justin Gaethje was the guy that was the king of just not giving an F and just really going after it. Yeah, I think Chandler probably takes that. Even though Gaethje won against Chandler, like,
yeah,
Chandler just does not care.
In my opinion, Gaethje beat Chandler because Gaethje has a superior cornerman in his corner. He's got Whitman, who literally turned a madman into a calculated fighter.
Yeah.
If Gaethje, the Gaethje that first arrived in the UFC, if him and Michael Chandler fight, Michael Chandler wins that fight. The Gaethje that fought Dustin Poirier loses to Chandler, in my opinion. It was that Justin Gaethje fight that really made Whitman set Gaethje down. Like, hey, we have to be calculated here. We have to use our brain here. We can't just do, blood and guts every single fight. And he really changed. Ever since he changed, he started putting people down. He put James Vick down. He put the Brazilian down. What's his name? He's a monster. He's a monster. Leg kick extraordinaire, man.
Leg kick extraordinaire?
Yeah, man. He hit Edom with that spinning wheel kick.
Oh, Edson Barboza.
Edson Barboza.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little distracted there for a minute.
Yeah, me too. Edson Barboza got put down bad by Justin Gaethje. Vic got put down bad. Then Tony Ferguson got beat up.
Yeah, Tony's not been the same ever since.
Yeah, different Justin Gaethje. So, but Mike Chandler, in my opinion, is a victim of his own style. He doesn't. That's the thing. Like, a person like, for instance, a person like a Clay Guida, or a person like a Diego Sanchez, they have to fight a certain way because they lack certain athleticism, certain natural technique skills, so on and so forth. So they make up for it with psycho type fighting.
Yeah.
Whereas Mike Chandler, he has all of that. Natural ability, athleticism, speed, power. He has it all, and yet he still chooses to fight like a madman. Whenever, if he fought a little more calculated, he'd win more fights. It frustrates a lot of people. Josh the Punk Thompson, it frustrates him to no end. He has at times has a hard time watching him because he makes him so angry to watch him fight. He's just like, you're so good, and you don't allow yourself to win some of these fights that you can clearly win. And Dustin Poirier literally at the end of the fight in an Octagon interview said, if my man would have just threw some straights after I got hurt, he would have put me away 100%.
Yep. Do you think Chandler changes that, or is it so ingrained in who he is as a fighter and obviously as a person as well? Is that something that he can change this late in his career?
I think with the right,
or do you want him to change it? I think both of those are pertinent questions.
Like, I love Henry Hooft, which is his team. I love Henry. He's a great coach, but he hasn't changed in a very long time. Mike Chandler, like he's fighting the same way, and maybe he needs someone like a Trevor Whitman who literally said, who sat Justin Gaethje down and said, "You're going to have to have a game plan here. You have to be more calculated, pick your shots more. You have to. You have to." It doesn't seem like that's being told to Mike Chandler. I don't know. Maybe he's ignoring it, but he doesn't come across to me as someone who just ignores coaching. He seems like a very buttoned up, coachable guy, and the fact that every time he has somebody hurt, he just throws haymakers. He doesn't think. It's wild.
We've talked about it a couple thousand times about how some people, they get their opponent hurt and then they go into berserker mode where they over pursue, leave themselves open for counters, or they just go a little too much. And he does that from bell to bell. Regardless if he's got his opponent hurt, he just goes bananas. And Poirier admitting that the straight punches may have finished him should give him a clue as to what he's really doing, because absolutely the man throws big, powerful, looping punches that when they hit their mark, they really crumble people. But if you just tighten it up a little bit, you may end up with a similar, because that power is going to translate to those straight shots as well. You may end up with more knockdowns or more knockouts or damaging your opponent more if you just tighten it up a little bit. But here's the thing, is he going to lose some of his entertainment value? Is he going to lose what makes him an exciting fighter, what makes people want to tune in to watch? Because let's be real, ever since Chandler stepped in the octagon with that fight against Dan Hooker, it's been all eyes on Chandler. This man is pure entertainment. Everybody wants to watch him. But if he slows down a little bit, if he starts throwing more straight shots and looking for finishes rather than highlights, is he going to lose some of that luster?
I don't think so, because I believe all he has to do at the end of the day, everything that he does up to when he gets somebody hurt, keep doing. Once you got a man hurt, think about what you're gonna do. Look at how you got a man hurt, and calculate what it's gonna take to finish the man. Yeah. Don't just throw anything. There was a point in time where he had Dustin Poirier hurt, and he double-legged and took him down. I couldn't believe that. He had him so hurt. I don't know why he took him down like that. It is frustrating to watch, even though he's so exciting to watch. At the same time, it is frustrating because he could definitely win. Like every fight he's lost in the UFC, he should have won.
Yeah,
every
winnable.
single one.
Yeah, including the championship fight against Charles Oliveira.
And are essentially ending the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like what you got to get a clue a little bit here. You got a guy hurt, Oliveira hurt, Gaethje hurt, Poirier hurt. You had them all hurt badly, and you can't finish the job.
Yeah,
there's gotta be something that clicks into your brain where like, okay, I need to figure out how to finish the job on these. I'm getting everybody hurt. I'm doing my job. My job is going to hurt this man. And I do it every single time. So up until that point, I'm doing everything right. After I get a guy hurt, what do I need to do to put him away?
It's a good question. Here on the Sunday morning again, we got lots of fight advice, things that you can adjust in your game to get finishes. As a little side note, I feel like I should say this like exclusively, but big ups to Dustin Poirier. Like, so proud of this guy. I love him as a human being and as a fighter. Every time he gets a win, he's just classy. Like, I really enjoy Dustin Poirier. But the side note is, I thought after the Luke Rockhold Paulo Costa incident where he was like rubbing his bloody face all over Costa's face, I thought that was probably the most gross thing that I've ever seen in an MMA fight until this fight. And if you didn't watch it out there, people of the world, I'll just give you a little mental image by talking about it. But I strongly suggest that you find some way to witness this for yourself on YouTube or whatever you can find it on. But Chandler ended up in a position in which he was on top of Poirier after Poirier had busted him up pretty well. He had a fair amount of blood leaking out of his nose, and Chandler took it upon himself to do one of the most nasty things I've ever seen in my life, in which he blew his nose and a large clot and glob of blood came out of his nose, and just Freudian timing or something here, it fell directly into Dustin Poirier's mouth.
It was one of the most disgusting things. It was the biggest glob. It was like you took a paintbrush full of red paint, you dipped it deep into like a paint can, and you pulled it out and you just glooped it on him. And it looked like even Dustin was like, "This is even too much for me."
He mentioned it in that post fight.
Immediately after, he like turned around. He's like, "If I get choked out, I get choked out." But that was disgusting.
Yeah, you made an audible. We were sitting on my couch watching the fights, and Tim makes an audible sound.
Yeah, just like I was just like, I was like,
and it could have been doing it for comedic effect. But I don't think that was the case. To me, I interpreted it as exactly real.
No, it was real. In the moment, it caught me off guard. I never seen it like, I've seen I've seen blood like drip or even like pour. Yeah. But I never seen like a goop just go. I mean, his mouth was wide open, and it just. I was like, oh.
So everyone out there, definitely check that out.
Please check that out.
It's worthwhile, time.
Yeah, just make sure you didn't eat first.
Yeah,
because it was disgusting. Yeah. But congratulations to Dustin Poirier. He got the job done. For a while, it looked bleak for him, but man, what a comeback! What he made a little bit of a reference to who ain't got jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
I guess that was a little shot at Makhachev, who said jiu-jitsu's of the lightweight division, they should be taking their black belts from these guys because their jiu-jitsu's not good. I don't think that was necessarily the spot for Dustin Poirier to say who ain't got jiu-jitsu. It's not like he had like some type of crazy jiu-jitsu display in that period, but it was funny to say. He wants to crack at the champ.
Yeah.
So
he used the opportunity of a win and the spotlight on him to really say something that may not necessarily lead directly to a title shot, but also just to plant the seed. He may end up having to have a couple more fights before he gets a shot at Makhachev or whoever the champion may be at that point. But he's just planting the seed. I'm down with it.
Yeah, I agree. How do you think that goes? Ugh.
I don't want to talk about it. I really
Let's just enjoy the moment, huh?
Yeah. I mean, just let me live and like bask in the glory of my guy, like winning a fight in an impressive way. And I don't want to talk about him, in another fight where he's fighting a guy that's, just like Khabib. Just not really interested in that for today. Thanks, Tim, for trying to bring me down. I appreciate it.
Well, it's funny you should say that because we're going to bring you down a little bit more.
Oh,
Frankie Edgar
Yeah.
versus Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar's final fight in the UFC octagon. His final walk, final run, final fight. Ends about as horribly as you can possibly imagine it. If you've been watching Frankie Edgar's last few fights, he seemed much more susceptible to being knocked out, and last night was no different. Gets ended by a nasty knee from Chris Gutierrez that flatlines him. There's not really much to say about the fight. I mean, it was what it was, but I don't even really want to concentrate on the fight itself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really much to break down. But how do you feel about Frankie Edgar?
I mean, I have to echo exactly what you said in that it's like the exact opposite of what you would want to have happen. I wanted Frankie to win, to go out with a win, but I also thought that there was a chance that he was going to lose. But I at least wanted him to show up and have like a good fight. If he was going to lose, I kind of wanted it to be more competitive, and it just sucks. What he has done in his career, I just hate to see him go out like this.
100% one of the most popular American mixed martial artists of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely top 5 in my opinion. 3 weight classes, multiple victories in 3 different weight classes. Lightweight champion, beat BJ Penn twice. Legend,
Yep.
Hall of Famer.
Definitely. I mean, he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, right?
No.
He will be. Like,
Yeah.
whenever they have the next vote in, he 100% is in there.
Now that he's retiring, I'm sure they'll put
Yeah.
him in immediately.
Yep. Has to be.
Mm.
So yeah, Godspeed, Frankie Edgar. Thank you for
Thank you.
literally almost 8 hours worth of octagon time.
Crazy.
Like, just years of enjoying fights.
Yeah, it's it was definitely sad. We had to literally gather ourselves after that because it really put a damper on the evening for the moment. I even if he would have got knocked out in a knockout drag out fight, I'd have been happy with it. Not happy with it, but it would have been more digestible.
Mm-hmm.
But to see him just go out so badly, it hurt. But at the end of the day, he went out on his shield, and nothing to be ashamed of. He's the man.
Yep.
He's the man. Last fight on the main card was Dan Hangman Hooker versus Claudio Pueses.
Pueses. I think it's
Puesos. What is it? You tell me.
Pueyes.
Pueyes. There it is. Pueyes. There you go.
You're adding Z's and stuff to this.
Pueyes.
Good fight.
Weird fight.
Yeah. It was competitive at some point, and then it turned into, a bunch of Imanari rolls, and
very reminiscent to Ryan Hall.
Yeah. I tell you this, it definitely, because I think myself included, a lot of people were kind of high on Pueyes coming into the fight. His stock has slipped significantly in my mind.
I definitely thought his stand-up was at a higher level than that. It was not. He seemed very intimidated, basically from the opening tap.
Yeah.
So.
Dan Hooker looked decent.
Yeah.
You had mentioned it during it, and it was obvious he was a step slower than what he has been in some of his previous fights. But as far as capability of striking and landing striking, and he looked pretty good. I'm impressed with how he thwarted submission attempts, because Pueyes is known as a knee bar guy, and he definitely grabbed a hold of that leg on a few occasions, trying for a heel hook and also knee bars. And Hooker did a great job of stacking when necessary, pulling out when necessary, and did a pretty decent job of keeping his leg into the game, and came out with a win. So great job.
It did get a little dicey there in the first round.
Yeah,
that guy, Claudio, I don't understand. How is he so good at finding the leg?
I don't know.
Out of nowhere.
Have you seen anybody be as effective as collecting a leg with an Imanari roll since Imanari?
No.
This guy's incredible at it. I don't know how he does it.
I mean, like, if they're both standing, and they were at a safe distance, it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And then I blink, and he has the leg.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Dan did a good job. His defense was very good. Got out of it and did his thing.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Dan Hooker. He desperately needed that victory.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad he got it for his mental psyche, possibly for his job, definitely for his wallet.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had a win bonus in, he's won out of his last 5. So out of his last 5 fights, he's only had 1 win bonus. So it had to have been good for the old pockets. So congratulations to him. As far as the prelims are concerned, just anything stand out to you? Anyone in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, highlight of the night, without a doubt, hands down, Moicano's post-fight interview. That guy went off. You have people like Ariel Helwani who are always trying to get MMA, in particular UFC, to be more like the WWE with these, fight promotions and cutting these, you shoot or work, and he loves to talk about that kind of stuff. That guy put on a show during the fight, and then afterwards, just tons of foul language. I would hate to try to watch that on ESPN. You wouldn't been able to hear anything. I'm glad we were watching on ESPN Plus. We could actually get the full context of what he was saying. But yeah, man, he went off.
Moicano needs money.
So yeah, Moicano was really good. For me, like, I'm scrolling through the fights right here. There's not a fight on this card that I was like, eh.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in a couple of instances. The Frankie Edgar thing, Israel Adesanya losing. That's disappointing. But as far as like being entertained and enjoying the fight, yeah, there's not one on here that I didn't enjoy. Top to bottom, great card.
Very surprised. I definitely thought Brad Riddell was gonna at least pose a bigger threat. I mean, he looked from the moment the ref said fight, he looked very tentative. He seemed very wound up. He didn't look fluid at all. It seemed like the pressure of him potentially losing 3 straight, was too much for him to handle.
Yeah. I went into this fight card anticipating that we were going to have 4-0 for the city kickboxing guys. I thought Brad Riddell was gonna perform better against Moicano, but I mean, you're right. He came out looking stiff and not entirely loose. I'm not sure what was going on, if it was an injury or just like nervousness of the show, or nervousness to perform or something. But yeah, he didn't look much like himself, and Moicano looked like a superhuman version of himself.
Yep. So congratulations to Moicano. He looked the best he's looked in a long time. Like we said earlier, Carlos Alberg.
Yeah. Matt Frivola looked good.
Matt Steamroller did his thing.
Michael Trezano. Him and Sengwoo Chu. I know we're getting more towards the end of the show, but we can't end without mentioning these two guys. Landed like from the opening bell. They circled each other a couple times, and then both of them landed like perfectly timed left hooks, and they both got knocked down at the same time. It was beautiful.
I mean, and they both got up. I mean, tells me they both were in shape.
Yeah.
Trezano came in a little bit overweight. It's the first time in his amateur or pro career he's ever missed weight. So,
talk about a guy that was fighting for his career too.
Yes, yes. Last fight of his UFC contract, coming off of a loss, needed and missed weight. Needed this badly. So,
yep.
It's congratulations to that man. Overall, man, the card was just. Compared to UFC 280.
You want me to compare it to 280?
Would you say, not? I mean, like, levels above. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Crazy. I said it this morning, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it 10 more times before I forget. But this card was easily the best card of the year, maybe one of the best, maybe top 10 cards in the UFC of all time. Like, just incredible. From that first Carlos Ulberg fight until Israel Adesanya, taking that loss at the end, it was entertaining, enthralling, and it captivated me from bell to bell. I love this card.
Yep. Well, that's gonna wrap up UFC 281. Unbelievable night. we spent an awful lot of time on it.
Yeah.
Just a couple things I want to. A couple things of note. We won't spend as much time on them because we spent an incredible amount of time in UFC 281. But Mark Hunt, last fight of his career.
Really?
Boxing fight.
A straight boxing, not kickboxing.
Straight
fight?
boxing.
Okay.
Gets a knockout victory. It was pretty impressive. The guy he fought was in incredible shape.
That's what I was gonna say. Who did he fight?
His name is, I got it right here. His name is, he's not a very known guy to the MMA community, but his name is Sonny Bill Williams.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. 48 years old, still got the job done.
Nice.
How would you remember Mark Hunt?
I mean, I think like anybody who's watched K1 kickboxing or Dream or Pride or the UFC in the last 10 or 15 years, you remember Mark Hunt as, a guy who, tries to murder people, knocks people dead, and in any form of striking, he can really put a hurt on somebody. Just and then on top of that, just like a really he always seemed like a good dude. Just very laughable and, just like not laughable, very comedic. Definitely a worthwhile contributor to the MMA community. Godspeed to him as well. Great career and happy retirement.
43 kickboxing fights, 4 professional boxing fights, 29 mixed martial arts fights. That man loves to fight. And he's fought the who's who.
Yeah.
The who's who. And he fought them early.
Yeah, he's not fighting over him at the end of his career.
Absolutely not. In his third fight, ladies and gentlemen, in his third fight in mixed martial arts, he fought Vanderlei Silva. In his fourth fight, he fought Mirko Krokop.
Yeah.
And he won both of those fights, by the way.
He fought Fedor too, didn't he, at some point?
He lost to Fedor, lost to Josh Barnett.
Yeah. I mean, every fight he had for a long time was against legendary opponents. So, yeah.
Everyone. I mean, he fought Wanderlei Silva, Mirko Krokop, Josh Barnett, Fedor Emelianenko, Alistair Overeem, Melvin Manhoof, Gegard Mousasi, Ben Rothwell, Chet Congo, Stefan Struve, Junior Dos Santos, Bigfoot Silva, Roy Nelson, Fabricio Verdum, Stipe Miocic, Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar, Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades.
Monsters.
Monsters.
Every single one of those guys.
I just you want to talk about not ducking anybody.
Yeah.
And you see, his record is 13-14 and 1 with that draw against Bigfoot Silva. But yeah, you fight murderers row like that, you're not gonna have all wins. Especially someone like him who's limited. He's kill or be killed.
Yep.
Entertaining fighter. Big ups to Mark Hunt. Hopefully he finds peace after fighting. He seems one of those guys who doesn't really know what to do after fighting. So hopefully he finds coaching or something like that.
Yeah.
Keep him feeling fulfilled. Kelvin Gastelum talked to MMA Junkie and said that he is going to possibly move back to 170 pounds after his fight he has coming up in January. It's already scheduled at 185 pounds. After that fight, he's going to looking to make a move back to 170. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think he should have stayed at 170 his whole career. He had, a degree of success at 85. He had until last night and against, I don't know. I'm trying to say he had a really competitive fight against Izzy even at 85, but let's be real. Gastelum has no business fighting at 85. He's too short, not long enough. He was very effective at 70 with his power and grappling. So I think he should, get his diet and stuff into check. And I think he would have much more success at 70.
100%. People like him, it's a frustration because you see him have success at 185, and it's kind of like annoying because he shouldn't be fighting at 185, but since he's having success, you can't really tell him not to.
Yeah.
But you understand, and he came, just a whisper close from being the champion.
Yeah.
So you can't really say it was the wrong move, but at the same time, it was the wrong move.
Yeah.
Because there was no reason. He was winning at 170. He was doing great.
Do you think it's too late in his career to make another weight change? Like, do you think he has it in him at his age and experience level to make another run at Usman or Leon Edwards for a title?
I think maybe 170 has gotten just a little bit too good. Only time will tell. I mean, he would still be one of the more elite strikers in the 170-pound division.
Yeah.
So time will tell, but there's a lot of guys that are very, very good at grappling. Khamzat Chimaev, obviously the former champ, Kamaru Usman, and others who are good at grappling, and others who are improving, and those who could pose a very equal threat on the with the hands, like Leon Edwards, or now we've got Kevin Holland into the fray, people like that. So only time will tell. I think it is the right move at this point in time. They're only getting bigger at 185 pounds.
Yeah.
So I hope he stays. If he's not going to be disciplined, don't do it.
Yeah.
But if he is, let's do it. I'm good with that.
Sure.
Lastly, I'm going to end on the news of Kayla Harrison. She has her, I guess, the finals, you would call it, for PFL. She's been demolishing everyone in PFL, just one after the other. It's hard to get competition. MMA for women in general, it's not near, the talent is not nearly as widespread as the men, obviously.
Yeah.
So most of the talent is in the UFC. What's left over in the talent is in Bellator and one championship, and then you get the trickle down effect of a couple guys, a couple girls, I should say, in the PFL, and you got Kayla Harrison, who is good enough to fight any of those promotions, just absolutely smashing these girls.
And she also stands out too, let alone what you're saying with talent distribution, but also size. Because how many talented girls of her level of talent are fighting at 155 pounds?
Almost none.
Yeah.
Almost none.
Okay, so sorry. Continue with what you're saying. What is she doing?
So she announced that after the final, obviously it's at 155 pounds, she is going to, in lieu of the PFL supposedly going to make an announcement for 2023, they're going to create a women's 145-pound division.
Okay.
She is going to be making a move to 145 pounds. This will be her last tournament at 155 pounds, and this will be her last PFL tournament, period, because she says she cannot, under the PFL format, make 145 pounds
that frequently. Gotcha.
So she is going to fight singles fights in PFL until her contract runs out. I'm not sure if she's going to re-sign or not. I would not if I was her. I'd definitely move on to a bigger promotion. But what do you think about the move to 145 pounds? What do you think about Kayla Harrison in general? Do you think she should leave the PFL? Do you think if she does leave the PFL, where should she go?
Well, just one question. Because she just recently signed the contract with the PFL. Like, I remember it was a big news story. A lot of people were talking about her potentially coming to the UFC, like fighting Amanda Nunes. Do you know how long and or how many fights, like, time-wise, 2 years or something? Or is, like, her contract with the PFL, how long did she extend for?
I think it was an additional 2 years, I believe.
2 years, but is it a certain number of fights that she has to fulfill as well?
It's weird because I don't know how that goes because of the season format, right?
Yeah.
Since it's a tournament format, you can fight like 6 times in a year,
if
whatever.
If
you win,
if you go all the way to the finals,
So I don't know if they go per. It's something I'd have to look into, but I don't know if they go per fight or if they go by season or what.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be mad at it. I think that she's been not guarded. That's the wrong word. She's definitely been not as tested as she could be with girls at 55. I think that she's going to find herself in a position where she's fighting much more challenging opponents at 45. Maybe not necessarily in the PFL, but just in general, the talent pool is much deeper at 45. So I can't be mad at the potential for her to drop down and have much more exciting and competitive fights. I think clearly, if she finishes her contract at the PFL, she should come to the UFC. Like, there's no question about that. Not that the UFC has 100 great women fighting at 145 pounds, but you could get the Amanda Nunes fight that everybody in the world wants to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that sounds great to me. Have her finish out her contract at the PFL, whether it be at 45 or 55. I think it's a great move for her to drop in weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's tricky because Bellator has more 145-pound fighters.
Yeah.
And they have Cyborg. So she could win the 145-pound belt in Bellator and actually have people to fight at 145 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to
yeah,
go, the UFC where you win the belt and what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have 35-pound girls coming up to fight her at 45, which is what Nunes and Cyborg have had to deal with in the UFC at that weight division as well. But who would you rather see her fight? Like, what's your dream fight for her?
Oh, of course, Amanda.
Okay, more than Cyborg.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Just selfishly because I want to see the best fight the best. In my opinion, those are the two best. Mm-hmm. She's the best women's grappler I've ever seen. Yeah, and Amanda's the best. She's just the best. She just knocks everyone out. She beat everyone. So
I've heard this brought up. This is an interesting question that I heard recently. But who do you think? Because clearly, if you had to guess, or not guess, if you had to pick who you think the greatest women's fighter of all time in MMA is, who you picking?
Now, are we going? I always think there's a difference between greatest and best, because best means, like for instance in football, I believe Dan Marino was the best quarterback of all time. He's not the greatest because he didn't win. That's gonna go to Tom Brady or Joe Montana, because winning is a part of that calculation, whereas opposed to Dan Marino, who he didn't win the Super Bowls, but if you just use your eyes and look, he's clearly the better quarterback. And fighting, Amanda Nunes wins fights, but if you look at her, you look at Shevchenko, who is a better all-around fighter. Yeah. And to me, it's not even close. It's Shevchenko.
Okay. Well, you went a completely different way than I was hoping. Because you brought Shevchenko instead of Cyborg into the conversation.
But Cyborg, to me, is the same problem. It's like they're both win. They win power, great striking. Yeah. But they're both limited. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's like they're the greatest because they get the victories. They knock everybody out. They do the deed, but I can't say they're a better fighter than either one of them, than a Shevchenko.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a real well-rounded explanation as to why you would want Kayla Harrison to come to the UFC to fight Amanda Nunes versus Cyborg, because they're basically the same thing. And Amanda's probably younger in her career, more competitive at this point. Not to say Cyborg's really slowing down a whole lot, but she's definitely lost a little bit of a step since, when she was in her prime.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, man. How long we been going, y'all?
An hour and 30 minutes.
That's not bad.
Ooh, that's not too bad. I thought it was worse than that. Not too bad.
I saw the note come out earlier, and I was like, oh, man. And then I saw Stacy over there with her phone stick up in the air. I was like, oh. I stumbled over my words for like 15 minutes trying to figure out if she was taking a picture or trying to tell us the computer crashed or something. I was like, what's going on, man? I can't.
You guys are going to need photos for Instagram.
Oh,
behind the scenes,
How dare you make sense of it?
I know. How dare I think ahead of things?
He's a whiz.
All right, we're going to wrap her up here then?
Let's wrap this thing up, man.
All right, everybody. Just want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for checking us out. We've been working real hard on getting this thing together. I can only speak for myself, but I imagine Tim is very much the same. We've
100%.
Couldn't be more excited to be here and doing this thing finally, and good things to come for sure. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Until next week, this was Fight Fanatic Podcast.
Out.